Okay, welcome back to the final part of today's lesson. Hopefully you've had plenty of time to add lots and lots of detail to your wonderful imaginary maps. Don't forget to share them with us on Twitter or Facebook. Use the hashtag Literacy with Miss P or find me on there. We'd love to see what you've come up with. So you'll probably see here that I've added a few extra details to mine as well. And now it's time to do some creative writing. So hopefully as you've been doing your map, you've been coming up with lots and lots of ideas about what could potentially happen in all of these different places. So there's a few options on the blog for your creative writing or oral storytelling. So option one is just to tell a story to somebody about your map and what would happen in your fictional world. You might even want to dress up and act part of it out with a little bit of drama as well. Option two is to write a short description about one of the places on your map. So you might choose to zone into the magic mountains or the rainbow river or the evil crow's nest and write a description about that particular place so that your reader can really imagine what it's like to be there. Finally, option three is to create a short story that takes place in your own fantasy world. And hopefully you'll have lots and lots of ideas about what your characters might encounter along their journey and some challenges that they might have to overcome. So I've decided to focus on story writing, but I'm not going to write the whole story with you. I'm just going to write part of it, okay? So I'm going to actually focus on the deep forest area of my map and think about what could potentially happen to one of my characters during this part of the story. Now, I want to really start by grabbing the attention of my reader, which is really important in storytelling because we want them to be engaged and we want them to move on. So I'm imagining that the deep forest is really not a nice place to be. And obviously, as we said earlier, there's something magic and secret hidden deep inside the deep forest. So I'm going to really focus on this particular area of my map and just write some narrative, some story writing around that particular area, and then I could add to it if I wanted to. You might choose to start at the beginning and then write a different paragraph for each section of your map. It's really up to you how long or short your story is, okay? So I'm just going to pop the map out of the way for a moment. Just make sure this is focused in view. Brilliant. So as I was saying, I really want to hook in my reader at this point. So I might start with just quite a simple sentence that will make them wonder and make them interested to read a little bit more. So I'm going to begin with nobody could have guessed she'd make it this far. Now, what I hope that this sentence will do is make my audience wonder, who is she? Because I haven't revealed who my character is yet. And no one could have guessed she'd make it this far. Now, that gives the impression that maybe she's already overcome quite a difficult journey. And it's alluding to the fact that perhaps there's a little bit more of the journey to come, that it's not quite finished. So hopefully that would intrigue my readers enough to want to keep on reading. And now I'm going to start to describe the deep forest, because I want my reader to really imagine what it's like. I want to bring them into my imaginary world. So I'm going to start by talking about the trees because it's my forest, and I'm just in my mind thinking about different words that could describe the trees. So because I want it to be quite a mysterious perhaps even scary place, I'm going to describe them as silvery. The silvery trees stood in awe of the dove-white peaks of the magic mountains. Full stop. Now, I've used capitals there because Magic Mountains is the name of my mountains. The silvery trees stood in awe of the dove-white peaks of the Magic Mountains. So I've used an adjective here, but I've also used some personification because I'm saying that the trees are standing in awe. So they're really amazed by these dove-white peaks of the Magic Mountains. Now, I want the mountains are only in the distance, but I do want to talk about them because they really set the scene of how magical this island is. So I'm going to continue with a bit more description about the mountains. The mountains lay. Now, what could they be lying like? I'm going to use a simile here. The mountains lay like. So in my mind, I just think about lots and lots of things that lie down. And the mountains are also huge. So I'm thinking about huge things that lie down. I might refer to the mountains as giants. The mountains lay like giants. That would be a really nice start to the sentence, but I think I could improve it even more. The mountains lay like sleeping giants because they're very still, they're not moving. I could even go one step further and look up sleeping in a thesaurus, or maybe I can just think in my mind about some different words that might be better. So I'm going to go with slumbering. The mountains lay like slumbering giants. Beneath blankets of snow. Okay, nobody could have guessed she'd make it this far. The silvery trees stood in awe of the dove-white peaks of the Magic Mountains. The mountains lay like slumbering giants beneath, and I might just add in here, thick blankets of glistening snow. Now this is just a draft, so it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit messy. And I might come back to it a bit later. So now I'm going to reveal who my character is. Maisie followed the sun's gaze until it sank out of view. So just giving this impression that she is looking off into the distance, and it's also setting the time of day that this point in the story is. Finally, the sun had set and it was safe to move. So again, now I'm adding a little bit of action in there, so my reader knows that perhaps it hasn't been safe for my character up until this point, and it might have been quite a perilous journey. So I want to give a bit of a sense of urgency now that she needs to start moving because it's dark. So there was no time to waste. Hastily, or quickly. She got her compass and her bag and continued her search. Okay, so hastily, that's quite good because I've used a fronted adverbial there to give the reader an indication of how she's getting her things together. Now, hastily, that's quickly. Again, it's adding to that urgency that she doesn't have much time to get where she's going. So she got her compass and her bag and continued her search. Now, sometimes if I'm looking to improve my writing, I will look for the nouns in a sentence and see whether I've described them or not. And here you can notice she got her compass and her bag, but I haven't really given any indication of what these things are like or how she feels about them. So I'm just going to add in that it's a trusty compass, because a compass would be quite important if you were on a journey like this, and she obviously relies on it quite a lot. Now, her bag. How could we describe the bag? And her bag, I might actually change the word bag to satchel of supplies, because if she's on a journey, she's going to be needing to carry these things with her. And again, it doesn't matter if your writing's looking a bit messy, we can always write it up neatly afterwards. So there was no time to waste. Hastily, she got her trusty compass and her satchel of supplies and continued her search. That sounds much better now. So I've done a lot of describing about what Maisie can see, talking about the mountains and the sunset. So I think I might add a little bit now about what she can hear, so that my reader can really imagine what it's like to be in this place. So if I just look back at my map, what sorts of things might she hear? She might hear the wind going through the trees. She might even hear the river in the distance. So I'm going to start with the river because that's further away, and then I'm going to bring the reader right up close to where Maisie is. So we'll start with the river in the distance. So it would be quite faint. She could hear the faint trickling of water in the distance, okay, which is my Rainbow River, as you can see in the distance, but she's somewhere here in the deep forest. So now I need to think about the sounds that she might hear when she's in the forest. So she could hear the faint trickling of water in the distance. Maybe I'll add an and the rustling of leaves. She glanced up at the towering trees. And again, I do want to include a bit more description here because I want to set the mood. The trees are towering above her, so she feels quite small. I want to give my reader an indication that perhaps she might be feeling a little bit scared at this point. So I'm going to really emphasize how big these trees are. And I'm going to use personification to do that. The trees stretched up towards the sky. as if they were trying to escape this evil place. Now, evil is a really important adjective there because I'm really setting the mood, and also the fact that they want to escape this place gives the indication that you don't really want to be hanging around here. I think sky, I could possibly introduce, maybe it's a midnight sky, because if it's nighttime and it's dark, that might also help to set the mood I'm trying to create. Gnarled vines, so that's like twisted vines, snaked their way through the leaves on the ground. What could we call that? The undergrowth. And again, I'm going to go back to sound now because I've done a lot of description of what she can see and perhaps giving a bit of a hint about how she feels. And the sodden, so that's like the wet ground. What sound would it make if it was kind of muddy and wet? What sounds can you think of? Squelch, squelched. Beneath her feet. So again, we've got the trickling of water, rustling of leaves, and now we've got this squelching sound beneath her feet. And I'm kind of going to come to the end of my bit of writing here. So I want to leave people hanging, and what I want them to leave them hanging on is this, a bit of a clue that something important is going to be there. So I'm going to use a really short sentence to do that. Then she saw it. Now, if I leave it there, my reader will just be wanting to know, what did she see? And hopefully they'll continue to read my story. Now, hopefully that gives you a bit of a clue. Now, obviously this is a bit messy and I might choose to write it up after I've finished. And that would be a really lovely thing to share. Either read it to your brother, your sister, your mum, dad, whoever's around at home, or you might be able to ask your parents to take a photo of it and share it with us on social media as well, using the hashtag literacy with Miss P. So I hope you have fun with your creative writing today. I can't wait to travel to all of the distant lands and amazing places that you've created in your own imaginations. So do share them with us and enjoy literacy today. We'll be back again soon with some more fun writing challenges. Bye.